like so many things that we put so much pressure on ourselves for is not it. And this is coming from someone who pours into multiple businesses. My husband has a very large, successful contracting business. Like, this is coming from someone who has poured a lot of time and effort into systemizing and business strategy and all the things. And it's so fun and I love it. And I absolutely love it. It's such a joy. But my number one is standing firm in the Lord. And when that is your heart posture and your mindset walking into every single day life, you remember that the blessings are the blessings, and you remember who the real enemy is, and you remember that it's all for him and it's all for his glory and his honor. And all of a sudden, those things that were hard before become a lot less hard.
Welcome to the Seek First CEO podcast, a community for high-achieving kingdom women committed to seeking God first and keeping God first in all we do. If you believe you're called to impact the world through your gifts, then you're in the right place. Hi, friend. I'm Heather, teacher turned speaker and your host of the Seek First CEO podcast. I'm passionate about helping ambitious, servant-hearted women find their worth in whose they are, not what they do. As a certified master neuroscience life coach, I help you connect the dots between biblical principles and brain science so you can take your thoughts captive and be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I don't do surface, so we go deep here, and we talk about the stuff underneath the surface because I want to help you get to the source of your heart set and mindset roadblocks so you can have breakthrough by aligning your heart and mind with biblical truths. If your heart's desire is to grow in your relationship with Jesus while fearlessly fulfilling your purpose and calling, then let's open up the Word together and see what the Holy Spirit has to say about living your life in flow with Him. Are you ready? Then get excited for today's episode. Hello, sister friend. Welcome to the Seek First CEO podcast. I have a special guest for you today. I have Miss Amanda Moffett with us today, and I have been connected to her on Instagram for a little while. And once I finally got my stuff together and hired a podcast manager, I'm like, I would love to have some more guests. And she was one of those people who I thought would be awesome to bring onto the podcast. So Amanda is the founder and CEO of the Pursuit Company, and she is really a systems expert and business coach. She's a mom, she's a wife, she's a lot of what you will be able to relate to. So I'm so excited to bring her on and have her share with us her wisdom and all that God has given her to share. So Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Heather. I am so excited to be here. What a joy.
Yay. Well, okay. So I kind of gave a little bit of who you are, but I would love for you to share for the person who doesn't know you, just give us a little background. Like, where did you get started? How did you get to where you are today?
Yes. Okay. So I actually used to be a ballet dancer. I used to be a pre-professional ballet dancer. I traveled the world for that. I've danced in Spain, Austria, New York, Chicago, Seattle, all sorts of places. And I was really going down that professional ballet path. So it was kind of like the Junior Olympics, but in that very, very cutthroat, high-end ballet world. And so it was like a full-time job from middle school through high school. It was really like my brain and my life had to be so disciplined and so focused on that specific career path. And it was such a joy. I will always love dance, but the Lord just put this tug in my heart of business and innovation and thinking outside the box. And my parents are very entrepreneurial, so I was always thinking that way, but I never knew quite, but God, what does this look like? I love dance. I want to become a professional ballet dancer. What in the world does that have to do with creating innovative entrepreneurial companies? Like, why do I have these two things in my heart? And as God does, He unfolds your life in ways that you would never have thought of. And so when I was 16, 17, I started working at a local dance studio, just teaching like one class a week casually. And lo and behold, when I was 17 years old, my boss, who owned the studio, offered me the studio to buy it. Wow. And I literally wasn't even 18 yet. I was in my senior year of high school. And so this was, of course, a a huge opportunity. She was giving me a business on a silver platter, wrapped up in a bow, completely operational. The staff was already there, a full client list, like literally a turnkey company. And I thought, well, this is huge. I know nothing about business. I have never done anything like this before, but I know that I'm willing to work hard. I know I'm willing to learn new things. I'm willing to get uncomfortable and just jump in. And I know that I can make it work if I set my mind to this, and I see God in this. I see God in this opportunity. And so I just went for it. And I turned 18 in May, graduated high school in June, and I bought the company. I signed on July 1st. And my life changed. I was thrown into a whole different world of entrepreneurship, customer management. I was all of a sudden an employer of multiple employees of this whole business, right? And so I learned a lot very quickly from the School of Hard Knocks and just doing it firsthand. And I learned exactly what I wanted to do and what I did not want to do. And it was genuinely just years of trial and error, learning so much spiritual growth, so much personal growth. During that exact time, I got engaged. I got married to the love of my life, my husband, my best friend. We had 2 babies under 2 years. I finished my college degree. When I say it all like this, it feels absolutely insane. But day to day, the Lord just carries you. And it's so beautiful when you do hard things with Him, you know? And it stretched me more than I could have ever imagined in the most painful and beautiful ways, and grew me so much in my faith. And then I came into this turning point of a few years into business, kind of getting my footing, getting my bearings, figuring out like, oh, wow, there are better ways to do things. I can be strategic. I can be intentional instead of doing it like somebody told me years ago. I could come up with my own creative, innovative idea that actually works better for me. And so I started to gain confidence as a business owner and started making my own decisions and changing things. And I've genuinely now, about 5 years in, built a business that I'm so proud of, so in love with. I've had to fire, hire, transition clients. It's like a whole different business now. I've systemized, created truly my dream team. And it's been such a blessing to grow with so many learning lessons. And it's brought me to this place today of wanting to help other women have this transformation of going from completely overwhelmed and scatterbrained to, wait a second, I actually love the business I've created. It's sustainable. It is systemized. It brings me joy, and I don't feel stressed like I used to. So it's that transition of, learning it all the hard way, helping women today, helping Christian women build businesses they genuinely adore that get to serve others and their own families as well. So that is my story in a nutshell. And that's what I do today with Pursuit. And I help Christian women create that for their lives. And it's just such a blessing. It's such a joy.
What a fun story. I love it. I don't think I have seen you talk about being a ballerina. So let me ask, do you still own the dance? Do you still own this?
I do.
Okay.
I do own it. Yeah.
So you it's that. And then you also have Pursuit, which is focused on helping other Christian businesswomen.
Yes. And what's so fun, that's a testimony in of itself, because if you would have told me in my first couple of years of business that I would have enough free time, enough mental bandwidth, and enough enough energy in my own spirit and life to create an entirely new, different company and business model and do both so joyfully, I would have said, you are absolutely crazy. I would not have known how that's possible, but through growth, learning, the Lord just having so much grace, I've actually worked my way out of a job with my dance studio. And so having so much free time, I genuinely got to walk the walk and literally start another business because I could,
That's so cool. Okay. So for the woman who has so a lot of the women who listen to this are very multi-passionate, and they have that really hard time figuring out like what's the thing and can I do all of these things. What would you say to her who's really like wrestling with that?
Yeah, something I heard, I really don't know who it comes from. I wish I knew like the direct person to give credit to, but you can do all the things, just not all at the exact same time. And it's so true. I mean, when I was in the beginning of creating the dance studio and creating the systems, and when I was in the thick of learning all these hard lessons for the first time by myself as an 18, 19-year old, I didn't have two babies. I didn't have a husband, and I didn't have a whole nother company. I didn't have a podcast. I didn't have, all these other things. And that was good and perfect and wonderful for that season. It truly is just seasons of life, and having the wisdom and patience with your life and with the story that the Lord is unfolding for you to just be able to sit in the season that you're in is such an exercise of patience and strength, but is truly the place where you will find most rest when you just surrender it. Like, just surrender it to the Lord. I tell women, I love that you love many things. I do too. And that is beautiful. And you don't need to squash that. It's just having the wisdom to know, I'm going to do numbers 1 and 2 right now, and I'm going to save 3, 4, 5 for the next few years or in a decade. And life truly isn't as rushed as we make ourselves feel.
Yes, that's so good. And I can totally relate to that. So my journey, I got started in network marketing, and I had done, I was a teacher, then turned sales executive, turned, corporate, was doing all the things. Then I became an entrepreneur. And there's this narrative in the entrepreneur space, and maybe I don't know if you hear it as much, but in network marketing, especially, they talk about having multiple streams of income. And so I got kind of hooked into this idea that I had to have all of these things in order to actually like be secure and in my finances. And so I had this network marketing business, and then I started this. And by the time I knew it, I had 4 businesses at one time, was running so like pulled in so many different directions. And I think, your message is so key and important. And I do tell people the same, is that like it's thinking of it as laying foundations, right? It's beautiful. You can add on that, but we have to have a solid foundation, which is why systems and automation and all of those things really, really are really helpful. Okay, so let's not fly by the fact that you have 2 businesses, you have 2 little ones. How do you do it? Because I shared with you before we even got on, I was like, oh, let's talk about motherhood, because it's kind of that topic that I avoid. I think, we are all in the thick of trying to figure it out. It's our first go at it. Even if you have multiple kids, it's still your first time being a mom. And so I would love to, let's dive into, how do you manage motherhood and feel like you're doing it well, as well as these other businesses, whether it's 1 or 2. Let's go into that.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh, definitely. And I know the moms listening are like so dialed in, like, tell me,
What's your secret? Yes.
Yeah.
The secret sauce. What is it?
Nobody has this one huge secret. Life is hard sometimes. Life can get overwhelming, and that's okay. And we have to remember that blessings are blessings. What I mean by that is, when you're sitting there at your kitchen table, completely scatterbrained, you've got the babies, maybe the dog's barking, you have so much that you need to or want to get done to get accomplished what you want in your business and your marriage and the laundry and all of life. And I want to encourage you to think of it, instead of like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed by all of these things, to simply remind yourself of, wait a second, my child is crying. They have healthy lungs that they can cry with. I am so blessed that the Lord gave me this amazing, beautiful child. We have laundry to do. Oh my goodness. Billions of people in the world pray for new clothes that aren't torn, and they would give anything to be able to have clothes and a washer and dryer and all of the food that needs to be prepped. I mean, how many people don't know where their next meal is coming from? What a blessing. And I think thinking of gratitude is one of those things that's, I think, used so much, where people just say, okay, whatever, yeah, like write a gratitude list. Okay, whatever. Every guru talks about it. Everyone says, journal out what you're thankful for. I get it. I get that it's overstated, but genuinely, when you sit there and when you close your eyes and you talk to the Lord about literally just thanking Him for the things that once stressed you out and sitting in that, like truly resting in it, your life will change if that becomes a daily practice. So, first of all, just a mindset shift of, I am so grateful that God has given me these things that are overwhelming me in this exact moment, because I know that there are women out there who the biggest cry of their heart is to have a child. And so even though I'm stressed right now running a business with this baby, I know that it is a huge blessing and privilege. And so I'm just going to walk through this day with joy, because at the end of the day, business is just business and your family is family. They are everything. My children are absolutely everything to me. So every business decision I make is 100%. If it is not okay for my family, then I do not do it and I do not pursue it. And that brings me to the second part of all this is be radically simple. Okay. Radically simple. That is how you do it. Little life example, the most practical life hack. Okay. My children have one type of sock and I never have to pair socks. I buy a huge bulk pack of the same white socks. You know how much stress that honestly relieves for me? And I'm a pretty A-type personality, so it would bother me if they had random mismatching socks all the time. They have all white socks. I don't even have to look. I grab two and they always match. Things like that. And when you think of that in your life and you try to apply that way of thinking into your business too, you would honestly be very surprised by how much you're able to reduce your mental load and your mental stress when you think, wait a second, how can this be simplified, like at all? How can I take any layer away and make this easier, make it simpler, make it more streamlined? Like, am I adding complexity to this that really, truly does not have to be there? And I promise 9 times out of 10, if you sit with that and if you really think about it and you put intentionality into looking at that one task or that one process in your business or that one offer or whatever it is, there is at least one way that you could simplify, you could make it easier. And I promise everything's going to be okay, even if you take away some of the extra fluff and complexity. And so how I do it is I am radically simple. I focus on very few things and I focus on making them extraordinary. And I batch work. I batch work. I pile it all in together and I make the most of those times. And then I completely unplug and I'm present with my children. So those are a few tactical and mindset things that come to mind.
No, those are so good. And all of the moms on the other end of this feeling like you have anxiety just looking at your child's sock drawer, because I see my daughters right now and it has every color, different lengths. We've got the crew socks, we've got the ankles, we've got the pink, we've got the animal prints. Okay, girlfriend, I'm like, maybe it's time to clean out the socks. But it makes so much sense. So I love that super practical example because it makes a ton of sense. Okay. Yes, my mind is a little blown on that simple hack that I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Because there's so much mental energy goes toward little stuff. And we only have so much energy today. And I know this obviously from like a neuroscience perspective, but I never even considered it being like that simple. I love that. Radically simplify things. So good.
I had a business coach once tell me, she literally gave me a ruler, like a physical ruler. And she said, put this on your desk. It's going to live on your desk. This is now your simple stick. I was like, what? And she said, this is your simple stick. Every single time you go to do anything for your business, replying to an email, creating a graphic, literally anything. You're going to physically take your simple stick and you're going to tap your computer or tap your paper and literally ask yourself, how can I simplify it? How can I simplify it? And she said, then ask yourself again. Once you come up with an idea, ask yourself again, wait a second, is there another way I can simplify it? Wait a second, is there a more streamlined way? Wait a second, do I even need to do this at all? Simplify, simplify, simplify.
Oh,
And
I love it.
if you adopt, yeah, right. And if you adopt that way of thinking, I promise you will be so surprised how many of those moments you have where you think, oh my goodness, what a light bulb. I cannot believe I put so much mental energy into that. Maybe it wasn't a huge deal every time I did that one task, but every task ever added up together. That's why moms, working moms, entrepreneurial moms are so overwhelmed. I mean, it's so much. I mean, nobody knows that like a entrepreneurial mom, you know?
Right. Yeah, that is one thing. I obviously in the internet, we see so many people doing so many things. And not that we can't learn from people who don't have children, but it is a totally different ball game wearing that hat as well as and knowing that that's really our most important calling, right? Our home. And I struggled with that because I thought that the success of my business in the beginning was like going to answer, it would make me a better mom, right? All the while when I learned the very hard way that my kids just want me. They don't know that I have, now they do. They're like, do you have a podcast? Are you on TV? Like, are you, then now they're a little older, but when they just want us. They just want us. Okay, tell me about the unplugging. You said that you batch, which again, I'm just like, I've heard that many times. I've tried that. That doesn't, and I'm just like, maybe we could do some coaching here, friend.
Yeah.
So batching doesn't work well for me. And let me tell you why. And I'm saying this to maybe stick up for the woman on the other side who might just be a
Yeah.
little, um, because I'm a very emotional person. And when I'm creating content, I have to be in that flow of like,
Yes.
ooh, it's like oozing out of me. And I can't always choose that that's Thursday at 10 o'clock, right? And same with podcasting, because I have often my guest podcasts are great. I can do that because I feed off people's energy. But
Mm.
my solo podcast, it's really a challenge for me to dedicate this time on this day is when I'm gonna feel like it. And I know some brain hacks to like feelings and thoughts and all of that, but I've tried some of those things and it just doesn't work as well as it works for some people. So I want to, yeah, do you have any tips on that? Like,
Yes.
yeah, share what
Yes.
you got.
First of all, just I'm so glad you're bringing this up. Two things come to mind. I want to talk about sustainability and I want to talk about the word you used, flow. Love that. I have so much to say. So, if something does not work for your business, I tell people this all the time. Even if you see 9 out of 10 other super successful people that you know have figured some stuff out, if they do it, but it genuinely does not work for you, and you know that, and you know you've really tried, you know you've really put in the effort and you have given it a shot, then you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. The whole point of creating a business that you love, that serves you, and that blesses your family, and that you are really proud of and excited about is literally decisions like that. Thinking to yourself, wait a second, that doesn't work for my life though. That doesn't bring me joy when I work that way. It's really frustrating for me. It makes me feel strange. It makes me feel like I'm not enough. I'm not doing it like all those other people say, you know. But if you have a different way that works for you, then that is the most amazing way that you can run your business.
Oh, so good.
Period.
So good.
Period.
And I
And
do think
so, yeah, go ahead.
we have permission. Like we have permission
Yes.
uniquely and different. And I think often as a kingdom pioneer, we're not only have permission, we're actually called to do it, that it's tailored fit to us. Thank you for that. You just gave us
Yeah.
permission. You even gave
Yeah.
me permission to like, okay, reiterate. I don't have to batch. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. What else were you going to
Yes.
share?
No, I love that. Yes. I mean, you didn't start a business to follow other people's, I don't want to say orders, but follow
Sure.
other people's ideas and do what they're doing. You created a business to share what you have with the world and to make a difference from what you have learned and serve others. And that means you and your brain and the Lord, not what that other coach says and you feel like you should do, but it doesn't work for your family, right?
So
I
good.
mean, it's crazy. So first of all, that. Second of all, the word flow that you used, I resonate so much with this. And for people who see my content or see a random reel here and there, I have talked about this concept of working in a flow. It's the best word I can come up with. I am exactly like you. I totally get it. And I want to clarify, I don't write in my calendar like, Tuesday at 3 p.m. from 3 to 5, I'm going to batch content. That doesn't work for me either. I actually batch. Let me try to explain this well. I batch when things come to me. So, for example, if I had on my calendar to create some podcast outline ideas and update my website that day, whatever. But while I'm doing those things, I start to get some really fun inspiration for a Reels series. And I come up with this really cool team retreat idea. And I want to just pour so much into it because ideas are just coming to me and I'm in that place. You know what I do? I stop updating my website and I sit down and I spend an hour, hour and a half just writing out those ideas and creating a Google Doc of my brain on paper so I don't forget things. And I just pour it all out. And then I have that foundation to work with later. So it's not that you squash creative ideas when they come to you. It's that you allow yourself to switch up your plans. And maybe you had on your calendar to update your website and whatever that day. But if that means it happens during a time when really cool content ideas come to you, just take a deep breath, stop updating your website and write down all those amazing ideas. And you still get so much done that day. In fact, you get more done because you were in that creative place. We all know what it's like to be forcing something versus it's just really working and you're going with it and things are coming to you and it's awesome. Jump into those moments, take full advantage of them, get it all out of your system, write it all down, and then be excited and proud of yourself and move on with grace, not saying, oh no, I didn't do my website updates. I can't believe I didn't do what I wrote down on my list today. Instead, you say, my list changed. My business is better for it. And I had a great day, right?
So good. Yes.
Yeah, batching doesn't have to be this strict hour by hour thing. That's not how I work. I literally could not work that way with two babies under 2 years old. I don't have control over my hours like that right now. My kids aren't 9, 10, 11, like they completely need me so often and so unpredictably. And so the batching is more so when you're in a headspace, use all of it and get it all done. And then there are certain things that are like more strategic batching, like podcast episodes. I can't record podcasts with my two little ones. It's not going to work. So podcast recording, silence in the background, those types of things, those are strategically batched for me because of that. But basically, honestly, most other things are batched when it comes to me.
Okay, that gives me so much freedom. I love that. And it's like, again, it's just hearing, because when I think of people saying batch content, I think that they set the date, they set the time, and they put those 2-3 hours and just go at it. And that's beautiful. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work. So what you do actually is really a lot of what
yes.
I do. So that brings it all for me. Okay. I love that. Yeah. And I don't know if you know, my signature program is literally called It's Made to Flow. That's it. And it's that whole concept that we're not made to fight, flight, freeze, or fawn when we come up against things, but we as spirit-filled, spirit-led CEOs are meant to flow. And so we can look those things head on, kind of get into the nitty-gritty of like, why is that there? But I love it. Yeah, you literally are creating in the flow of how life goes. So let's talk about this, because you mentioned having two under two, and I have three. They're 10 and under, but I've had that season of like super small. I have my own beliefs around this. And when I first started my business, I had one, right? And so that's a little different. But I would work in the nooks and crannies, right? And that was kind of that whole promise in the network marketing profession that you can build a six-figure business in the nooks and crannies of your life. Let's just touch on that for a second. What are your thoughts, opinions? Does that literally is that how it
Yes.
works for you?
So this is exactly why I batch basically most things more than people would think, way like so far in advance that people think I'm crazy to the point where people disagree with me because they think my content won't be relevant. I'll explain this a little bit. So the reason why I batch and I create things to publish and come out literally months and months and months and months, many months ahead of time, is so that I don't have to be bound by the nooks and crannies mentality, so that I'm not having to put pressure on myself of, okay, I both the kids are sleeping right now. Okay, well, I guess like I have to use this 30 minutes an hour, whatever, like I have to. It's the nooks and crannies. Like I don't have to live that way because I know that everything that the public sees, everything that's like out there face forward of my business is set for literally like 4+ months. And so I don't have to stress about using all of those nooks and crannies. And so I can live my life much more freely, much more freely. And I don't have to have that kind of hustle mentality around that. I don't think there's anything wrong with, my kids are sleeping right now. I'm going to get some tasks done. Like it's not that that's the evil. It's not a bad thing to work when you're able to. And there's plenty of that for me. My daughter's reading some books. My son is just chilling out, playing with his toys. It's not a bad thing if I go and answer a few emails. Like that's not the bad thing. But to idolize having to like force work into every single possible moment of every single day is also not the space you want to be living in. Definitely not for a long period of time. That also is not sustainable.
That's true.
And yeah, so the nooks and crannies, do you get some things done when you're able to here and there? Like that's also the joy of entrepreneurship. You drop your child off at practice, you get something done in the car, you pick them up. That's great. Like that's amazing. But also that is why I've built the business model I have and the content structure that I have, so that if I just want to sit there and listen to my audiobook and enjoy the sunshine, I do not feel stressed about it.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think that comes from that place of pressure, right? When we're
Yeah.
building our business from a place of pressure and lack, and we just feel like we don't have enough time and we already are so behind. And so there's just pressure to prove or to perform or to create. It's like, oh, it just sucks the life out of the joy that we get to do this. And I love that goes back to your gratitude. And it's always like, yeah, what is the lens we're looking through? Like, what is the heart posture of what we're looking through? And I think we all can take that and say, maybe I wasn't looking at that. I was looking at them as like our children. I realized at one season I was looking at them as a burden instead of a blessing. So like they were getting in the way of my calling, and God was like, oh no, no. They're not a burden. They are your first ministry. Okay, let's talk about this. So like, for example, right now we have an hour scheduled. We do the podcast. Do you have help outside of, well, yeah, what does that look like for you? Because your kids are still really small. They can get into things. And
Yeah.
my kids, we're finally at that stage where I can get them to occupy themselves. However, I've hired nannies. I have, I usually always have somebody that can like help if, especially there's those larger chunks of day. What does that look like for you? Because I know there's a lot of moms
Yeah.
in this who some don't have help. Some do have the village.
Mhm.
I always tell people, I'm like, I'm still looking for my village, right? Like, we're
Yeah.
supposed to do it with our village. I don't know where the village is, but tell me what that looks like for you from a really practical perspective.
Yeah. So practical, so nitty gritty. We are very blessed, my husband and I, by our parents. We live in the same town, the same city as our parents, and we have a wonderful relationship with them. I've been very blessed with my parents. So practically speaking, right now, both of my kids are with grandma and grandpa, and they're playing and having a great few hours, and then I'm going to go pick them up. And so I fully 100% understand that a lot of people don't have that. And I get it. It's different. It's different when you don't have that help. We do also hire some outside help sometimes. So we have like our parents. There are like, I've grown this like group of girls from our church community that are so sweet, so amazing. We know them so well. I trust them, love them, all the things. And so I feel comfortable leaving my children with them for a few hours. And they're wonderful young ladies who, love to babysit too. And so we're very blessed. I would say those are, practically speaking, two huge helps. Sometimes the kids can go play with grandma and grandpa for a little bit, blesses everyone. And then of any other time, we do have a little group of young ladies that I can call around and see if some of them want to babysit for a little bit. And so if you don't have family like that, and I get it, a lot of people don't, and that is really hard. That does add a layer of a different dynamic to it. I would say try your very best, and I'm sure you are, but to plug into a church community, a faith-based community that you genuinely can get to know, get to love. Each other's families. It just takes, one really sweet college girl who would love some extra money and is so great with kids, and you trust her and she's great. And there are those people out there. It is hard to find. It is hard to cultivate. It takes time, but that's what we use. That's what we do in our life. So that is what has worked for us.
Yeah, I'm so glad that this came up because this is a real issue, right? And so for those people who don't have the village, or maybe their parents live far away, or maybe they don't have that healthy relationship. I think and I'm so glad that you shared this, because what I often get to is there seems to be this idea, and it goes back to the nooks and cranny, right? Some of that narrative that so many of us have heard, and we see these people who are like killing it, and yet they're doing it, and they're still having play dates and all the things. I want to give you permission to hire help. And that's always my philosophy was, it's okay. Like, you don't have to be mom. You cannot be mom 24/7 and CEO 24/7. And it goes back to what you said originally, that you can do anything. You just can't do it all at one time. And I really think that more moms need to hear that I've never been. Now, I had a season where I was ashamed because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm hiring a nanny for a few hours. I used to, when we lived in Texas, no family around, I would have her come for 3 hours, 3 days a week. And that was my time.
Yeah.
And is that a luxury? Yes. And I also think if we really want to build something and honor the role that we have in motherhood and honor the role that we have as CEO, then it's not just necessarily a luxury. I think it's a necessity. Would you agree that, rather than just putting your kids on, and I've done the thing, so there's no shame to you listening if you put your kids on the iPad or gave them a movie, we've all probably had those.
I've been there. We've been there. Okay.
But sustainable, and what you've shared, I love that word that you use, sustainable. I think we just have to change this narrative of the nooks and cranny thing. And yes, drop your kids off. I love that. Yes, we can utilize those moments, but if we really want to steward this thing well, while unplugging and not feeling like we're so pressed for time all the time, hire help to get you those few hours, a couple days a week. And then I know this too, the woman listening, because I've heard it before, but what if their business isn't making enough money to justify that?
I get that.
All the hard stuff. Let's just do it.
Yes. I love it because that's exactly what the woman out there is probably thinking. And that's a real thing. That's a very valid question. Two things. Number one, I hear all these people online saying, well, but you need to invest and you need to spend that money to make the money later. Just stretch thin right now so that later you can be comfortable. And Sure, we've all heard those success stories of I hired help even though we couldn't really afford it and it was stressful, but it paid off and blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that doesn't exist and it's not possible, but I also know when you're in that place, it puts a lot of strain on a family and a lot of stress. And there's so much to this. You genuinely have to sit down with yourself, your spouse, God, your family. You need to look at this as a family team, as a family unit. Teamwork, teamwork, teamwork. Like my husband and I have a money date every single week on Tuesday nights. It's in our calendar. It's a money date. We talk about fun stuff, the future, our vision for our family, goals. We look into the nitty gritty. We just make sure we're on track. During that time is when, if I were this mother asking this question, I would bring up like, hey, babe, so is there any way? I know the business isn't making money right now. Technically, on paper, we can't justify hiring help so that I can work on this thing that isn't bringing in money right now. What can we do as a team? Like, how can we stretch something? How can we cancel something to do this for 2 months? Can we, whatever. You need to look at your life together as a team and make that decision with unity, as much unity as possible, so that your home can have peace, so that both people can have that feeling of, I was involved in this financial decision for our family, for our team, who we all are rooting for, and the whole why, right? And I think that a lot of couples, a lot of women in business would be very blessed by a conversation like this. Obviously, so many nuances. Every couple is different, every financial situation. I don't know what if your husband works, what his work life looks like. It's so personal. Your finances, your the husband wife dynamic, but you need to look at this as a team of, this is really important to me, even just like 1-2 hours a week. Let's start there. What could we possibly do? Like, and if that looks like, hey, that extra dresser in the guest room, nobody uses that room. I don't mind selling that to hire help for a month and see if that works out for us, like in the short term. I don't know, few $100, like whatever it is. But there are creative solutions that a lot of people don't necessarily think of. They think very much so like in the box of, do I have the cash in hand right now? Maybe there's a way for you to get that cash you didn't think of. I would just encourage the woman to talk with your spouse, figure it out as a family, a unit, so that you're on the same page and excited for what you're doing, and think outside the box. There truly, I do believe this, where there is a will, there is a way, with the caveat of the Lord's plan for your life and surrendering to him. But like, really, truly, when you think outside the box, there are so many more opportunities than people originally think of.
Yes, I love this so much, and that is something that I taught a lot, as far as the family dynamic. I love to use the word we, our, us, like what we did, because there was this like detached, like, this is my business. And even to this day, when I sign a new client or we have a great launch, I like tell my husband, like, guess what we did? Guess what, and share that in like, oh, right. And then I love that you addressed that there are so many different dynamics, because I'm sure there's the woman listening, like, well, my husband actually doesn't really support my business. And, there's all other things. And I was like thinking that, and I'm so glad that you addressed some of those. And there's the obvious, like, hey, not every couple. And I think that's just another shout out to our husbands, that they're super supportive. But I think my heart was kind of feeling for her a little. And so I think always going back to the Lord and asking him, like, am I forcing this thing because I think this is the solution to my problem? Or am I stressing out? Is there pressure in this? Because I really believe God does not pressure us into anything. He prunes us. He positions us. He will pivot us. And he's always preparing us for what he has for us. But that pressure. And so for the woman listening, and, you hear Amanda, and yes, like, we hear all these like good tips, and you're like, yeah, but my husband would never have those conversations. Okay. I love the idea of selling a dresser. Like, where there is a will, there's a way. And if it's God's will there is 1,000,000% guaranteed a way. And I think it is just that lens that we're looking through, and perhaps maybe that, the negative side of things, right? Instead of flipping the script and saying, hey, or like flipping that light off and on, it's kind of in the dark. So I hope that Amanda just sharing that really challenges you. If you're one of those people that are just feeling like you're climbing this is like this uphill battle that you're clawing your way, just praying about, like, Lord, is this actually your assignment for me? Because this doesn't feel like it's flowing, no pun intended, right? That's so good. I mean, I'm sure you probably too have just had those experiences where, I mean, I love Facebook Marketplace. So we could make a buck and do some, whether that's to buy your kids a new pair of shoes or to hire the nanny or whatever. I think that is a mentality and a lifestyle when you just really believe that. So thank you for sharing that. All right. Well, first of all, I will drop all the ways to connect with you. Instagram, your podcast. You do have the Pursuit podcast, which I'm so excited to share. All your stuff. We'll link everything of Amanda's in the show notes so you can go follow her. She has great content. What is a final word for the mom wearing many hats who has passion? She knows she's made for more. She is feeling like she's like in God's will, and she's just pursuing the things, the more, right? What would you tell her if you were having coffee and we were all just sitting around? What kind of encouragement or what word of advice would you give her?
I would say to never forget that you are a Christian first, and that you are a daughter of a king first, and that your number one job in life is to pursue God and to pursue his kingdom and to make his kingdom known here on earth. So all business aside, and hot topic, even all family aside, husband aside, children aside, your number one role in life is to be a child of God who pursues him, his kingdom, and makes his kingdom known here on earth. And so the moment you start to get that anxiety of, I'm listening to all the podcasts, I'm listening to all the audiobooks, I'm trying to figure out the strategies and the hacks and the tactics. I need to scale my business. I need to systemize. I need to do all this stuff. I need to be an amazing mom. I need to be an amazing wife, blah, blah, blah. When you start getting in your head about all the life things and just all the things, remind yourself first that you are a child of God, and your number one priority in life should be your faith, being strong in your faith, loving the Lord, serving him, honoring him, pursuing that righteous lifestyle, and sharing his love and joy and peace and goodness and faithfulness and all of those beautiful things with the world, meaning with your husband, with your children, with your clients, with your team members, with the people at your church, with the lady at the post office. So what I find is when I'm feeling most overwhelmed, when I'm feeling anxious, when I feel disorganized, when I feel like I'm not enough in business, when I feel like I dropped the ball in mom life, in wife life, I remember that I need to first be a really, really good Christian woman who is strong in her faith and is standing on that solid foundation. And truly, a lot of the stress melts away when you remember what's actually important at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it literally doesn't matter how much you scaled your business. It does not matter. Like so many things that we put so much pressure on ourselves for is not it. And this is coming from someone who pours into multiple businesses. My husband has a very large, successful contracting business. Like, this is coming from someone who has poured a lot of time and effort into systemizing and business strategy and all the things. And it's so fun and I love it. And I absolutely love it. It's such a joy. But my number one is standing firm in the Lord. And when that is your heart posture and your mindset walking into every single day life, you remember that the blessings are the blessings, and you remember who the real enemy is, and you remember that it's all for him and it's all for his glory and his honor. And all of a sudden, those things that were hard before become a lot less hard. They just do because you remember what's important. You remember who God is. And so that's what I would tell her. I would tell her all other things come after you have that strong, firm foundation.
So good. Amanda, you are such a delight and you are just full of wisdom. I am so thankful that you shared with us today and you spent some time with me. So it's been a joy getting to know you. I can't wait to see the listeners and the connections, the God connections that God brings to your path. So thank you so much for today.
Oh, thank you, Heather. It has been so fun. I just absolutely love talking to other women who love the Lord, love business, and especially other moms. Like, how fun, how blessed are we to be here today? It's just so awesome.